Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafting with Karen. Today we're going to be working on little gnomes. I told you in the past that we were going to do them, and so we are finally getting to the craft. So here's the big brother and here's little brother. I also wanted to mention to you that we will be doing a craft on December the 12th. And a video will also be posted on this in case you did not sign up to come to do this craft, on the centerpieces, which is located right here. And included in that will be a little candle that will be made out of a jar. So let's get started with our craft. Okay, what you need to do our little gnomes, and yet we think of gnomes as Christmas ornaments, but you can use them throughout the year. You can add little embellishments to them for Christmas. As you can see, I have little jingle bells up here, but you could also add other things. We could add a candy cane, or if you're doing something for, say, Valentine's Day, you could do a red cap instead and get some hearts and put on here. If it's Easter, you could do something along the lines that would show that it was an Easter gnome. So there's many different things you can do. So don't let your gnomes be just used for Christmas. So let me go over what the materials are that we need for this particular craft. You need a pair of scissors. Need some type of twine. This was some old string that I had at home, so I brought it to use this morning. You will need some socks. Now, most of the time we use just white athletic socks. This is going to be the body of the gnome, but there will be something else over it, so it doesn't matter that it has a design on it. That's not going to matter. And then you need something that you can actually put over this. So I have a black sock here. But if you want a little fella, you would go with the smaller sock. And we are going to cut these so they will not be quite as big. You need some type of embellishments, which I have some garland and some little berries that you can use. Here's some more garland, and I have some ribbon that we can use as well. You need a cup, and the cup is used to pour the rice in, to pour it into the sock. It's just easier to do it that way. And then last but not least, oh, this is heavy. You need some rice. You will use your own judgment as far as how much rice you will need to pour into your little sock gnome and to make him the size that you want it. And one other thing that you would probably like to have are some rubber bands. I have the little ouchless invisible rubber bands, but you can use just regular bands. You don't have to have those as well. And one of the important things that you have to have also, I failed to mention this, my bad, is, gnomes have beards. You notice this little fella has a beard. There's a lot of different ways you can make this beard. This one happens to be made out of yarn, and I'm going to show you the skein that I used. Notice how big it is. And what I did was I went through, I'm going to show you how to make your beard with this. And you take it, tie a knot in it, thus, turn it down, take your scissors, and then you cut it. What you're going to do with this is you will glue it in, and of course you're going to have to go back and trim it if you made it too long, but it's better to make it longer than shorter than you need. So that's how you do it with this skein. Now this is actually some yarn that I picked up at Walmart. It was regularly like $15 a skein, and I found it on sale for $2 a skein. So you can use a lot of different things. This just happens to be something that I picked up. Something else that you can use, and I did get this from my favorite store, Dollar Tree, is a mop head. Just a plain old mop head. And what you do in this same instance is you would cut one of the strands and tie it once again. Part of the reason why you tie it is so that it doesn't come completely apart. And try to kind of get it in the middle, tie it tight, and pull it down. And then you will individually pull the strands apart. Now you could leave it together if you wanted to, but this just makes it a little bit fuller as you do your gnome. So these are just some little hints of how we go about and do this. And with the yarn, you could do the same thing. Of course, you can always go out and buy fake fur. This is just a little piece that I had left over from another craft that my granddaughters and I did. There is a get my tongue going right, specific way to cut this so that it does have the fur going out this way. You go on the back and actually cut underneath the piece of material that is holding on to the hair so that it looks like it's more fluffy, and then you can go back and trim it as you need. I am not going to use this today, but they do have this at Hobby Lobby as well as Michael's, and I feel certain Joann's has it also. I've not seen it at Joann's, but I have seen it at the other two. It's a little bit more expensive. This is not but $1, so I told y'all I like my Dollar Tree, and that's where I got this from. As far as the body is concerned, let me mention one other thing. I'm using a sock and I'm using rice. You can use other things. I could use this clear cup that I have as part of the body. The little fellow that I've got here, I actually used a piece of styrofoam. It was a styrofoam cone actually, and used that. Of course, it's very light, so he could possibly fall down. You can also use knobs or little wooden balls for the nose, which is what I have on this one. If you'll notice on this one, however, I did pull a piece of the sock out, and you could take some blush to make it more flesh colored. I actually meant to bring some blush this morning, and sorry, thought of it after I got to work. So it is what it is. So let's get crafting. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sock, and I'm going to use this white one, and you will cut it. Cut it up above the heel. You could probably not cut it there if you wanted to, but if you don't, then it's going to be a really big gnome. So I have my sock that I have cut. Then, got to tell you, you also need a hot glue gun. And what's interesting, got hair on it. What's interesting is that Dollar Tree now sells hot glue guns for $1. Now, how good they are, I do not know. I have one. I have not started using it as of yet, so I'm not sure how well it will work, but for $1, hey, it might be worth it. So, let's get some rice. You can do this a couple of ways. You could actually put your sock in if I had a red Solo cup, I would do that, but I don't. You can put your sock in your cup like this and then fill it up, or you can just fill it in there and just be real careful in pouring it in, which is what I'm going to do. So hopefully I won't make a mess. We'll see. Whoops. So far so good. I make no promises though. Okay, so I've got to open it up, take my rice, and pour it in. Now if you'll notice, that's a mighty skinny little gnome. We want him bigger than this, so we're going to need to add some more. So put it off to the side. And like I say, you'll have to use your own judgment on this. Depends on how big and how fat you want him or how skinny you want him. But I do want mine just a little bit bigger. Open your sock back up. And it's easier if you use a cup that has a little flexibility on it as well. Pour your rice in. Tap it down. And there we have it. Okay, you see, and the rice is to about right here. I can put some more in here if I wanted to make it a little bit taller. I think I will. Just to get one that's a little bit bigger than my small one, but smaller than my big one. Rice is good to use because it does have weight and will hold your gnome upright easier. You could also use other things, dried beans and stuff like that, but I think that the rice does the best job. Okay, so I now have my rice in my little sock. Okay, well, we can't just leave it open, because if we leave it open, then the rice could fall out. That's where the rubber band comes in. So I have just a small rubber band, and I am going to do it tightly around the sock so that the rice will not fall out. Well, if I can get hold of the rubber band. There we go. It's also an invisible rubber band, so it blends right in. But notice I have a whole lot of sock left. Well, we don't necessarily want that. So I'm going to cut it some. Then I'm going to take my string, and just take a small piece, you don't need a real big piece, and cut it. And the reason why, and I hadn't thought about this until I saw it on a tutorial that I was watching on some different gnomes to see how the best way to make one was, is that the rubber band could eventually erode. Well, we don't want the rubber band to erode and then the rice go all over the place. So that's the reason why they suggest you use a piece of string. So just put it on there and then cut it off. Okay, so now we have our body, and you can squish it around and do it however you want. The next thing we're going to need to do is put our body on it itself, and this is what will cover up the white. Now, of course, you could leave it like this if that's what you wanted to do. There's nothing wrong with that, but to make it a little more festive, we are going to use this little skinny sock. And what you do is you just put, whoops, I say you put your gnome in here. And if you use the larger one, of course, you may have to cut it off. And you just kind of circle it around. You notice the toe is down there. And so you have another one. Thinking just a second, making sure of something. Hold on just a moment. I need to double check something. Yep, that's what I thought. Forgot one step. Pull your sock back down just a hair. Go to the white and pull some of your rice out. And the reason why, this is how we're forming the nose. If you don't use the, don't have a piece of wooden bead or something. And you can make the nose as big as you want. And take another rubber band. I don't suggest you do what I just did, putting the rubber band in your mouth and doing it that way. My mama would have been horrified if she had seen me do that. And do it around. And once again, so we have made our nose. Make sure you take a little piece of string, tie it around the nose in a knot, just so it secures it as well. Of course, this string's going to be hidden, so it's all right. And then what you're going to do is pull this up here. Well, maybe I do need to cut that. There we go. And you're going to have his nose like this. Just pull the sock down underneath. So you have the nose like this. Isn't it getting cute? Yeah. And you can manipulate your rice around however you need. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is probably have put the heel on the back, but I didn't. So you compensate. We all make mistakes as we're making crafts and everything, and we just go through and we figure out what needs to be done to take care of it. So I just kind of put the heel underneath, and no one will ever see, because guess what? There's going to be a beard here. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need a beard. And I'm going to use my yarn. So we take our yarn, and you can do this a couple of different ways. I am using hot glue just because it is easier. And you go through and just put a little bit of hot glue up above the nose, because you're going to have a hat on there and you want the hair to be underneath the cap. So if you notice how I've done that. And notice his beard is long, but I'm going to go back and I'll adjust that out. So just hold it down for just a moment. And you go around and you take your next one. Remember, I tied it in the middle, pulled it down, and then cut it off the skein. And put some more hair there. And you just continue going around your little gnome until you have all of the beard on there. And we're going to go back and we're going to adjust the beard so that it filters out and everything. So notice I'm just going around and whoops, that was hot. Put the beard all the way around. I didn't put my little finger protectors on there. So we have the beard. Now, isn't he turning out cute? Notice that it's really, really long, so we're going to go back and we're going to trim that. But it's better to have it too long than too short. Okay, so we have finished that. So the next thing we need to do is to fix our cap. And we're going to have a black cap. This is another pair of socks that I have. And so I'm going to, and you can do this two different ways. You can either use the top or you can use the bottom. And I'm actually going to use, I think I'm going to use the top. And the reason why is that way I can use the bottom to actually fix another gnome if that's what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my gnome's cap right here. And I'll pull it up. I've got to put something in it to make it stand up. And I did not bring any cotton. You can use cotton or you can use other things. And what I'm going to do is I have a pile of this yarn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take right much of it, and I am going to cut it. And I'm going to see about sticking it in the top. But first I need to make my top of my hat. Take another rubber band and put it up at the top so that it's going to be like my little fella right here. Not real sure why I forgot my cotton this morning, but I did. And we're going to put a piece of string on that as well for the very same reason. And since, oops, getting black all over the place from where I cut it. These are fuzzy socks from the Dollar Tree, by the way. So you may have to do a little bit of cleaning up. But we're going to take some of this and just put it in the top so that it does stick up. And if that's not enough, I can always go back and add more. I think it is. And remember, you want your, let's do it this way, nose to show. So what you're going to do is put it around it. We're going to take some glue and we're going to hot glue the cap on here. Now, some people put the hair all the way around, and of course you can do that. This is your gnome, so you can do what you want to do. So give me just a moment. I am going to hopefully not burn my fingers again. Because this is a thin sock. So far, so good. And you can pull it down over the knots, but you really can't tell that the knots are there for the beard, but you can pull them over so that they are covered if that's what you want to do. It's entirely up to you. As I said, this is your gnome that you will be making. And then what you do is you just kind of separate your hair And you can comb it out. I mean, it is yarn, so it does comb out. And so we have our gnome here, and I am going to trim it in just a few moments. But let's see what we can do as far as embellishments are concerned. This is Christmas, so let's do a little bit of garland. You can just add the garland around here. And this is stiff enough that you do not have to hot glue it on. That way you can change it when you want to. Isn't he just adorable? Let me trim his, and you can adjust his nose around and do all sorts of things with it as well. So let me see if I can't trim his beard just a little bit so you can see what he looks like. I am not a hairdresser, so I may or may not get this very even. We'll see. My mother was a hairdresser, but that was a long time ago. And you just trim her around however you want. You can make it ragged if that's what you want. You can do all sorts of things. It's entirely up to you. Okay. And you just pull the yarn apart. And sometimes you may have to go back and add something, which is what I'm going to have to do right in here to make sure that it does stay and that it is full. And these are on display in the library if you would like to come in to see them. And as always, you can contact me if you have a question on something. But isn't he cute? I probably need to go back and trim him a little bit more, and I'll do that later. But isn't he cute? These are very simple to do. Make cute little arrangements for your Christmas. And as I say, you can change it out and put something for Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, 4th of July. Just different embellishments that you can put with them. Once again, if you have any questions, you can contact me at the library. My email address is karen.garris@waynegov.com. Get it right. Jessica's always very good about putting my email address in the comments down there at the bottom of the screen. So just contact me. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. And once again, happy crafting.